All right, guys and gals, this is Ron with Sandcar Services, and I'm going to answer a question real quick. This is a perfect example of the answer to my question. So when I do my wiring, and this car, I did not wire this car. I did put in an MSD on his fans, for his cooling fans, and I did put in a Terminator X, but the actual automotive wiring is still intact from the way it was done, either from Ricochet or whoever did wiring to it in the past. And with that being said, there's two ways you can do a shutoff switch. You can do it on the positive side, which is the way this car is wired, and an awful lot of sandrails are done that way because they weren't really wired by professional electronic people. They were just wired by people that knew electronics. And then there's the negative side. The ground side is the one I choose to personally connect to, and the reason why is from training that I achieved back in 30 years ago, actually almost 40 years ago at Caterpillar when I got electric certified with them. They choose to go on the ground side, and their reasoning for it is when people add things like radios or lights or relays and stuff like that, they tend to want to go straight to the battery because that's what the manufacturers usually recommend. Connect it straight to the positive on the battery. Well, the problem with that is that it bypasses the shutoff switch. Now, on this car, there's one item that's bypassed that could potentially be a fire hazard if the exact perfect conditions were to exist. So let me show you something. Right now, the switch is in the off position. So we shouldn't have any power to his dashboard. Ignition, start, nothing, right? Okay. Here's where the problem lies. And I'm keeping this video going so that you guys can all get to see it, and gals. This is his alternator, which got relocated from the top, because it's a truck engine, down to the bottom when I deleted the power steering. That wire's hot. That means if I take that I got the switch turned off, so technically there should be no power in the car, right? But if I was to take that bolt off and a wrench hits the exhaust, or it hits the engine, or it hits the oil filter, or whatever it could potentially hit that has bare metal, it could potentially let the smoke out, which is what we call a dead short. That's the reason why I choose personally to do the negative side, because if the negative is as close to the battery as possible and as close to the frame as possible, when you shut that switch off, it doesn't matter how much of your wiring on the positive side is melting, burning, or shorting. It kills the short instantly. If the car's already on fire, it's going to burn anyway, but if the short is just starting and you're at the phase where you're seeing smoke, you can stop the short by shutting off the negative side of the battery or simply disconnecting the negative post on the battery, which a lot of these cars are underneath the back seat and you can't get to them. So that's why I choose to do it. Now, you can put them on the positive side like this car is done, but like I always say, if you hook anything up, almost everything nowadays, if you look at rugged radios, the intercom systems, the car-to-car radios, Terminator X, they all want you to wire directly to the battery. They don't want you going through the dashboard, which is fine. But the reason they're doing that is because they don't want what they call dirty electricity or high resistance going through their circuits. That's not to say that you can't use the negative lug on the battery to a shutoff switch to the ground and just have the negative wires on this side. It's still technically connected to the battery. With a 4-gauge wire, you're not going to have an issue with it. But right now, if we turn this on, we should have fire in the hole. Fuel pump. And so that concludes today's lesson on why Ron Williams with Sandcar Services uses the ground side to do the disconnect. This is going to be an interesting topic. There's going to be a lot of people comment on it, and positive and negative are both fine. They just have to be done right. But the negative side kind of takes all the guesswork out of it, and that's why I like the negative side. It doesn't really matter who hooks up positive stuff to the positive terminal of the battery if you run a negative ground shutoff. And I'll show more on my car when my car is together on how I've got the stuff that's supposed to be wired directly to the battery technically wired through my shutoff switch, but it's through a circuit that is, all intents purposes, it's the same thing as a negative post on the battery because of the distance from the battery. So hope that made sense to everybody. But that is the answer to the question that I get the most on my electrical systems, is why I choose the negative side. And that's why. So thanks for watching, and I'm going to try to get Johnny's car all wrapped up and get him going. Thanks.